High on a mountain, oh, wind blowing free, thinking about days that used to be. High on a mountain, oh, standing alone, wondering when the years of my life has flown.
Can you believe the article I read in the New York Times saying that this was the worst place in the country to live? I don't know where they got that. I love my county, I love my region, and I was very upset by this article. It made our county look bad, it made our region look bad, and it made me look bad. Look at all the trash that's around. Can we not pick some of this up and just tidy things up?
Dude, no.
This is like, who knows where this stuff has been?
Or just put a little bit in the trash can.
Honey, I know you like to change things, and it's always so nice to have this young energy and these outsiders come in. But people have said we're the worst place in the world about every 20 years. And about every 10 or 20 years, somebody comes in, they get a little grant, do this, little that, and they say they get them up with a strategic plan. And then it all goes back to the same thing. So we just don't want you to get hurt. You don't want to break your heart, get your hopes up too much.
The leader of our civic organization actually got death threats because she suggested that some of us pick up our trash.
You know, I heard they got a grant for that trash, but who knows what they're spending it on.
But I'm not going to give up. One little step here, and then another step, and we will make great things happen. Sometimes you have to use some incentive. Hey, we got free drinks if you come to our theater group tonight. That's very nice.
Is that Granny's hard cider?
It is. It is.
Boy, she got hurt to come along for it.
Yes. And bit by bit, we have a theater group coming. We picked up the trash in our community. And we're making things look clean so that now we can be proud of our region.
At the age of 16, my baby brother, found himself with a nerve pill addiction. He broke into the neighbors' cars. He stole anything that he could to sell to try to get more nerve pills. This caused him to get put on probation. One night, as he went on the rant, he confessed.
Ah! I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I shot up. I shot up. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to inform you, but it's just a slip. It'll be okay. We'll help.
My mother always tried to baby him, tried to tell him that it was okay. She thought that she could try to wean him off of the drugs herself, but it didn't work. I know that once he said that he had shot up, that I had to call the probation officer.
No, please, no, don't take him. They'll send him off.
Mom, let him go. She was mad at me for at least 3 months or more, but I still believe that I done the right thing. He's now got 2 daughters, works, and he's doing very well. What are you laughing at me, Mom?
I went to a conference where we were told to think of a time when we were really willing to go out on a ledge for something we really believed in. Well, back in the olden days when I was working in the theater, we wanted to do the Fantastics, and it really has to have a heart to make it magic. And we had about half of a shoestring budget. Money was really tight. So I found a student harpist at UK who was going to come for 3 rehearsals, 2 performances for $40. That was a lot of money because we didn't have much. So I thought, well, I'll go to the Chamber of Commerce and ask them if they'll give me some money.
What did they say?
Well, I went to the Chamber of Commerce and I asked them and I told them that without the heart, the Fantastics was a kind of a flat Fantastics. You know what they had the nerve to tell me?
No, you cannot have any money. You don't need a harp.
Now, there was something wrong with that, and this is why. The year before, the city of Kentucky, the city of Berea wanted to be in the All-Kentucky City Contest. It was brand new. They had all these categories of stuff that they had to fill out, but they called me saying, we only have 5 and they've got 6 categories. Could you write up what we did in the theater last summer? I said, yes, wrote it, gave it to them, sent it to them, long and short. They won the All-Kentucky Cities. So 2 weeks after they told me no, I went back and I said, ladies and gentlemen, let's reconsider this. Do you remember last year when Berea won the All-Kentucky City competition? You couldn't have entered that unless you had the theater portion. So you owe me $40. Now that was a ledge I didn't have to jump on.
Ever since I was a little girl, stories have been my life. So when I moved to my new community in Kentucky and I found out that there was a theater troupe there, I started volunteering. And then I found out they had a job. And I have a master's in fine arts. I produced Sound of Music, Oklahoma, you name it, I produced it. And I was so excited. And so I went and I applied, and I hadn't heard from them. So I thought, well, they're probably, taking their time. They don't want to have anybody's feelings be hurt. Dad, you decided who's going to get the job?
Oh, yes. Which we have. We decided on someone that's familiar with our community. Sorry.
I was disappointed. But then, when I heard what they had done to me, I was crushed. They were spreading rumors that I was a witch. Maybe that the reason that my souffle was so much better at the church social was because I put some satanic ingredients in it. And, I've been doing community work a long time. If you do this kind of work, if you step forward, people are going to bite you and stab you in the back. But I thought about my daughter. What would my daughter's reaction be?
Your mom's the witch!
Luckily, my daughter was all things Hermione Granger and Harry Potter. And she said,
That is so cool!
and you know what? Maybe my casserole turned out a little bit better. I think I found my iron. So I started thinking about it. They never did let me in that theater group, so we started a different one. And you know what? We had teenagers involved with it. We had all sorts of different people. We had people from the other side of the railroad track that had never gotten in their place. And we thrived with our theater productions. But it also made me think about what other women, because they stood out or they were a little different, had been vilified, had been named as witches. And so I started researching. And there are so many stories in these mountains of women who faced these odds and got past them. So I started collecting these stories. And you know what? Next month, I'm turning a manuscript into the Berea College University Press, and I think it's going to get published.
I was fortunate enough to have most of my great-grandparents on even into my own adulthood. All of my great-grandmothers were storytellers, but my Granny Chloe was my favorite storyteller. And she told me stories about everything that had ever happened to her in her entire life. But as she got older and she came to the end of her own life, her stories got darker. She started to process some of the trauma that had occurred to her when she was a child. She told me that when she was about 10, her dad was killed in the coal mines, and about 2 years later, her mother passed away too.
Dear loved ones, we are gathered here today to mourn the loss of a sister, a mother, a life lost too soon.
She told me that as she stood there at her mother's grave, she didn't know who she would leave with when the service was over. She didn't know who would take care of her. Now, as an adult looking back on it, she said probably the grown-ups had discussed it, but people didn't talk to kids back then. So she just stood there alone, not knowing. It was a really hard story for us to hear because we see her as this really strong woman. But then we picture her as this fearful child standing next to her mother's grave. Well, my great-grandmother died. And a few years after she passed, we got a phone call that one of my cousins had suddenly overdosed on prescription drugs. She'd left behind a 16-year-old daughter named Destiny. And as we processed about what would happen to their family in the next few days and what was going to come next, we said, Destiny's going to come here and live with us. And she has to know that. She has to know it tonight. Because no child can ever stand next to a grave with not know where they're going to go. So Destiny moved to Harlem when she was 16. And we did all of the things that you do with 16-year-old girls. There were proms, and there were sleepovers, and there were driving tests, and there were graduations, and there were boyfriends. So she's doing great now. She's in cosmetology school, really looking forward to her career. She's so happy. Everything's going well for her. And it's all because my great-grandmother told that story so many years later. And because she told that story, no child will ever be an orphan in our family again.
Can you feel it? It's so cold. Of course, it is February, but the trailer was so cold that morning. And the smell of the kerosene, every time I smell it, that memory sticks with me. It was 1984. I was 4 years old, and when I came out that morning, I could tell something was wrong with my mom. She had been crying, she was a little upset. She'd been on the phone most of the night. See, my uncle had had a dream that night where he had died in a coal mining accident. And they were on the phone all night trying to convince him not to go to work that day. See, my uncle was a hard worker. He'd been on the job for 9 days. Even though he had 25 years experience, it was a new job for him. So he went off to work that day. Now, I went off to school. At about 10:30 that morning, I'd gotten a phone call. My mom had come and picked me up, and I could tell there was tears in her eyes, and something was desperately wrong. You see, my uncle had died that morning in a coal mining accident. My Uncle Carol was a coal miner, rescuer, and when he went into that mine that day, it was just as my uncle had said the night before. His body had been crushed. And today, I have a love-hate relationship. I love coal because it supported my family, but it was also a tragedy, and it took my family away from me.
Come and listen, you fellows, so young and so fine, and seek not your fortune in the dark, dreary mine. It will form as a habit deep in your soul, till the blood in your veins runs as dark as the coal. It's dark as a dungeon and damp as the dew, where the dangers double and the pleasures are few, where the rain never falls and the sun never shines. It's dark as a dungeon way down in the mines.
I graduated from Harlan High School, and I wanted to leave here and go to college in Oklahoma. My family gave me their blessings, and I went to Oklahoma. I stayed there and graduated from there and loved it. Made a lot of friends, got a job. But there was something that just didn't feel right. I'd been there a year after I graduated, and I called my mom and I said, I need to come home. The next morning I got up, I packed my car up, and I went back. And I was just going to think for a while. But I got there and I applied for a job, and I got the job. And I felt like that was the answer. That was my answer I was looking for. I got to be with my great-grandparents before they passed away. I got to be there when my nephew and my niece was born. I got to be with family. I got to be with community. I did a lot of community things. And then I was fortunate enough to get to work as a mentor for some young people. That was important because I told them that it was fine to go away, but to remember, you can always come home.
High on a mountain, the wind blowing free, thinking about days that